friends, this is the program Empire of Lies, where we discuss manipulation and disinformation in Russian media. The main enemy is Britain, how Russian television is turning London into the axis of World War I. His last broadcast, Vladimir Solovyov spent nearly an hour constructing a monologue around one theme. Britain is allegedly behind all attempts to drag Russia into a world war. This isn't just a critique of London's foreign policy or an analysis of actual diplomatic processes. The viewer is presented with an example of a deeply constructed conspiracy theory that highlights a new model of the Russian information world. The enemy isn't a vague West, but Britain as the source of global instability. 1. Britain as the chief architect of war. Solovyov begins with accusations. British intelligence services allegedly orchestrated an attempt to hijack a Russian MiG-31 and fly it to Romania in order to provoke a clash between Russia and NATO. The entire presentation is built around a single thesis. London isn't just unfriendly, it's deliberately creating the conditions for World War III. Then a dramatic clarification is added to this version. The US is adequate, it has a strategic culture, Europe is weak and chaotic, and Britain is the sole initiator of escalation, acting systemically, purposefully, and historically. This establishes the focus. The conflict is not the result of Russian aggression, but the result of years of activity by British intelligence agencies too. Demonization of the BBC and the loss of trust in Western journalism. The next block is scathing criticism of the BBC. Not even criticism, but demonization. The channel is called a propaganda weapon. Journalists are called Satanists and homosexual cliques. British culture is called the product of Henry VIII's fornication. These are not random insults. This is a method of destroying trust in Western information sources as a class, especially in Europe's largest public broadcaster. When a BBC presenter talks about journalistic standards, Solovyov doesn't argue the point. He takes the conversation to the point of absurdity, turning her speech into a caricature. The message is simple. Any British information is a lie, which means Russia can deny any accusation, no matter what it is. Hatred. Europe is now turning into some kind of caricature of Europe's vision of the late Soviet Union. They've truly lost their minds. When I listen to those idiots at the BBC, I want to ask, are you serious? It's amazing how generations of journalists have been raised to say, here are the Western media, these are the standards. Standards. First of all, it's funny, of course, that the UK has a Minister of Culture, because it's clear there's no culture, yet there is a ministry. Old Soviet jokes come to mind, and a certain Lisa Nandy explains why British propaganda shouldn't be condemned. There's a fundamental difference between voicing serious criticism of editorial work and launching a targeted attack on the institution itself, hate. Europe is now turning into some kind of caricature of Europe's vision of the late Soviet Union. They've truly lost their minds. When I listen to those idiots at the BBC, I want to ask, are you serious? It's amazing how we've raised generations of journalists who say, here's Western media, these are the standards. Standards. First of all, it's certainly ironic that the UK has a Minister of Culture, because it's clear there's no culture, yet there is a ministry. Old Soviet jokes come to mind. And a certain Lisa Nandy explains why British propaganda shouldn't be condemned. There's a fundamental difference between raising serious criticism of editorial work and launching a targeted attack on the institution itself. The BBC isn't just a broadcaster, it's a national institution that belongs to us all. Every day it tells the story of who we are, the people, places and communities that make up the life of the United Kingdom. It communicates British values, creativity and integrity to the world. It's the backbone of our creative industry, with a presence in our nations and regions that no other organisation can match. And it's undoubtedly the most widely used and most trusted news source in the UK. At a time when the lines between fact and opinion, between news and journalism, are becoming increasingly dangerously blurred, the BBC remains aloof. The BBC is a beacon of light in a dark world for people here and around the world. Trustworthy news and quality programming are vital to our democracy and cultural life. All of us in this House must value them, support them, and vigorously defend them. The BBC faces challenges, partly through its own fault, but it does so against the backdrop of a revolution in the media landscape that has tested all broadcasters and divided our national debate. The time has come to act with clarity and resolve to secure the BBC's future. In fact, based on what the BBC edited and what Trump didn't say in the same thread, Trump could have gone to jail. And that's what the BBC's dumping was intended to achieve. That's why the BBC must be transformed, and every journalist must be expelled, because this has nothing to do with journalism. This is a propaganda weapon, an ultra-liberal, deranged British homosexual clique. Utterly satanic in nature, I remind you. It has nothing to do with Christianity or Christian values. It arose from the fornication of one particular Henry and reached the point of madness when they elected open forms of LGBT, plus an extremist organisation banned in Russia, to lead what they consider their church gathering, even though the former king is considered to be an absolute king, the most disappointing prince of all, a gardener king, and who practically blesses homosexual marriages. What kind of Christianity is this anymore? What kind of democracy are these people talking about? The level of crimes committed by the British military is such that they say, "We can't tell the truth about what British soldiers did, otherwise we'll tell you what they're doing in Ukraine." So, a ray of light in this dark kingdom. Kiss my ass! A ray of light in a dark kingdom. Pathetic nothings. Genrik Sergeyevich. On this positive note, I kept waiting for her to say BBC this, BBC that during her speech. It sounded like the famous number about